The universe brought you here today because you're part of the chosen superiors. You don't need to worry anymore because all your problems would be solved. After listening to this, your life would never remain the same. Most people spend years trying to change their lives while ignoring the one thing that creates every result they experience, themselves. We search for better opportunities, more money, stronger relationships, and greater success. Yet history repeatedly shows that lasting transformation never begins outside us. It begins with the architecture of the soul. Just as every magnificent building rests upon carefully designed pillars, a meaningful life stands upon principles that remain true regardless of time, culture, or circumstance. These are not quick motivational tricks or temporary bursts of inspiration. They are mental frameworks that quietly shape the decisions, habits, and beliefs that ultimately determine who we become. Master these pillars, and you will begin to see your life differently. Ignore them, and even the greatest opportunities may slip through your hands. Let's begin with the first pillar. Number 1 is the law of the seed. The law of the seed is the principle that everything we experience in life begins as something small that is planted, nurtured, and eventually multiplied. A seed may look insignificant when it is planted, but hidden within it is the potential for something much greater. In the same way, our thoughts, words, beliefs, decisions, habits, and actions are seeds. What we repeatedly plant into our lives eventually produces a harvest. The law teaches us, what you plant, you will eventually grow. What you nurture, you will eventually strengthen. What you repeatedly sow, you will eventually reap. This principle appears throughout Scripture and is expressed clearly in Galatians 6 verse 7. Whatever a man sows, that will he also reap. The lesson is not simply about consequences. It is about potential. A seed carries within it a future that cannot yet be seen. When you plant an apple seed, you do not immediately see an apple tree. First comes the soil, then the roots, then the small shoot, then the tree, eventually, fruit. The process teaches us patience. Many people abandon their seeds because they do not see immediate results. They pray, but do not see an immediate answer. They work, but do not immediately see success. They practice discipline, but do not immediately see transformation. But the absence of visible fruit does not necessarily mean nothing is happening. Some growth happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible above the surface. The seed must first develop roots before it can carry fruit. The same is true in our lives. Before success becomes visible, character may need to be developed. Before influence comes responsibility. Before abundance comes stewardship. Before the harvest comes the planting. This is why we must be careful about what we sow. If we continually sow bitterness, we should not be surprised when our relationships become bitter. If we sow dishonesty, we weaken trust. If we sow laziness, we limit our growth. If we sow fear, fear can begin to govern our decisions. But if we sow kindness, we create opportunities for kindness to return. If we sow wisdom, we increase our capacity to make better decisions. If we sow discipline, we create the foundation for progress. If we sow faith, we learn to live beyond what we can immediately see. The law of the seed also teaches that small beginnings should not be despised. A great tree begins as a seed. A great journey begins with a step. A transformed life often begins with one decision. One thought can become a belief. One belief can become a decision. One decision can become a habit. One habit can become a character, and character can shape a destiny. That is why the seeds we plant today matter. The question is not only, what do I want to harvest? The deeper question is, what am I planting? We often pray for a harvest while ignoring the seed. We ask for success but do not plant discipline. We ask for strong relationships, but do not plant love and patience. We ask for wisdom, but do not plant the habit of learning. We ask for peace, but continually plant anxiety and resentment. The harvest is connected to the seed. This does not mean life is always simple or that every outcome is directly proportional to our actions. Life contains circumstances beyond our control. People experience injustice, loss, tragedy, and unexpected hardship. But the law of the seed reminds us that we still have responsibility for what we choose to plant. We may not control every condition around us, but we can often control what we put into the ground of our own lives. We can choose what thoughts we entertain. We can choose what words we speak. We can choose what habits we practice. We can choose what values we live by. We can choose what kind of person we are becoming. And over time, those choices accumulate. A seed becomes a harvest through consistency. The power is not always in one great action. It is often in the small things repeated over a long period of time. One day of discipline may not transform your life, but a year of discipline can. One act of kindness may seem small, but a lifetime of kindness can define a person. One decision to forgive may feel insignificant, but forgiveness practiced repeatedly can change the entire direction of a life. The seed is small. The harvest is large. Therefore, never underestimate what you are planting today. Your future may already be growing in the soil of your present decisions. And perhaps the most important teaching of the law of the seed is this: you cannot plant one thing and expect to harvest another. If you want a different harvest, you must be willing to plant different seeds. If you want a different life, examine what you are consistently sowing into it. Examine your thoughts. Examine your words. Examine your habits. Examine your relationships. Examine your priorities. Examine what you do when nobody is watching, because the seed does not lie. Eventually, what is planted will reveal itself. So plant wisely, plant faith, plant love, plant integrity, plant discipline, plant patience, plant wisdom, plant generosity, plant courage, and then be patient enough to let the seed grow. Because the harvest rarely comes immediately. But when the right seed is planted, nurtured, and given time, what began as something small can become something far greater than you imagined. The law of the seed is simple: what you sow matters. What you repeatedly sow matters even more. And what you sow today may become the harvest of your tomorrow. So, before you leave today, ask yourself one simple question. What seeds am I planting? Because every day you are planting something. With your thoughts, with your words, with your choices, with your habits, with the way you treat people, with the things you give your attention to. And one day, those seeds will become your harvest. So if you don't like the harvest you're seeing, don't only complain about the fruit. Go back to the seed. Change what you're planting. Plant better thoughts. Plant better habits. Plant faith instead of fear. Plant discipline instead of excuses. Plant love instead of bitterness. Plant patience instead of frustration. Plant purpose instead of distraction. And remember, a seed does not become a tree overnight. So don't give up just because you cannot see the results yet. Keep planting. Keep watering. Keep believing. Keep going. Because there are things growing beneath the surface that you cannot see yet. And one day, what you planted in faith will become visible in your life. The seed is small. The process is slow. But the harvest can be greater than you imagined. So be careful what you plant. Because eventually, you will live in the world your seeds have created. Number 2 is the mirror of action. The world does not always give you what you want. Very often, it gives you the results of what you repeatedly do. This is the mirror of action. The teaching is simple. Your life is often a reflection of your habits. Your habits are a reflection of your choices. And your choices reveal what you truly value. We all have things we want. We want success. We want peace. We want strong relationships. We want financial stability. We want confidence. We want a healthy and meaningful life. But wanting something and becoming the kind of person who can sustain it are two different things. You may want a harvest, but your habits determine what you plant. You may want success, but your daily actions reveal whether you are preparing for it. You may want change, but if you continue repeating the same behaviors, you are continuing to create the same patterns. This is why the world can sometimes feel like a mirror. If you want your life to change, you must be willing to examine yourself. Not just your circumstances, not just the people around you, not just your luck, but your actions. Ask yourself, what do I do every day? What do I repeatedly think about? What habits consume my time? What choices do I make when no one is watching? What am I consistently giving my attention to? Because your life is being shaped by these things, whether you realize it or not. A person may say, I want to be successful, but if they consistently avoid discipline, the mirror of action will eventually reveal that contradiction. A person may say, I want peace, but if they constantly feed anger, resentment, comparison, and anxiety, their inner habits may continue producing inner conflict. A person may say, I want better relationships, but if they consistently communicate with pride, impatience, or dishonesty, their relationships may reflect those behaviors. The problem is not always that we do not know what we want. Sometimes the problem is that our habits are moving in the opposite direction from our desires. We want one destination, but our daily actions are taking us somewhere else. And the mirror simply reflects the direction in which we are walking. Your reality is built through repetition. One action may not seem significant, but repeated actions become habits. Habits become patterns. Patterns become character. And character influences the direction of your life. Think about someone who wants to become physically strong. They cannot simply desire strength. They must repeatedly train. They must repeatedly choose discipline over comfort. They must repeatedly show up when motivation is absent. Over time, the external result begins to reflect the internal discipline. The same principle applies to every area of life. If you want knowledge, develop the habit of learning. If you want wisdom, develop the habit of reflection. If you want trust, develop the habit of honesty. If you want financial stability, develop the habit of responsible stewardship. If you want strong relationships, develop the habits of listening, patience, humility, and love. If you want spiritual growth, develop the habits that deepen your relationship with God. The mirror of action teaches us that change begins with what we repeatedly do, not what we occasionally intend, not what we say we will do tomorrow, but what we actually practice today. Your habits reveal your identity. There is another deeper lesson. Your habits do not only create your circumstances, they also shape your identity. Every time you act, you are reinforcing a version of yourself. When you keep a promise, you become more trustworthy. When you practice discipline, you become more disciplined. When you choose courage despite fear, you become more courageous. When you choose patience, you strengthen patience within yourself. When you choose integrity when nobody is watching, you strengthen your character. Every action is like a vote for the person you are becoming. This means that transformation is not merely about changing what is around you. It is about changing who you are becoming. Many people want a new life without becoming a new person. But if the person remains the same, the patterns often remain the same. And if the patterns remain the same, the results often remain the same. That is why lasting change begins from within. The mirror does not lie. A mirror does not argue with you. It simply reflects what is there. In the same way, your results can sometimes reveal truths that your intentions hide. You may say you value time, but your calendar reveals your priorities. You may say you value health, but your habits reveal your choices. You may say you value relationships, but your attention reveals what matters most. You may say you want growth, but your daily routine reveals whether you are willing to grow. This is not meant to create shame. It is meant to create awareness. Because once you see the reflection, you can make a different choice. The mirror is not your enemy. It is your teacher. If you do not like what you see, you do not have to destroy the mirror. You change what is being reflected. And that begins with action. Change the pattern. Change the reflection. If your life is producing results you do not want, ask a better question. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Also ask, what pattern in my life is contributing to this? Instead of asking, why am I not successful? Ask, what do I consistently do that moves me toward success? And what do I consistently do that moves me away from it? Instead of saying, I need a different life, ask, what different actions must I begin taking? Because sometimes the greatest breakthrough does not come from changing everything at once. It comes from changing one repeated behavior. Wake up earlier. Keep your word. Stop making excuses. Learn something every day. Take responsibility. Control your attention. Speak with greater wisdom. Practice patience. Finish what you start. Choose discipline over temporary comfort. Small changes, repeated consistently, can eventually produce a completely different reflection. The inner world and the outer world. The teaching that your external reality is a mirror of your internal discipline does not mean that every circumstance in life is your fault. Life is not that simple. People experience things they did not choose. There are circumstances we cannot control. There are events we cannot predict. There are situations where even our best efforts do not guarantee the outcome we desire. But there is still a powerful truth. While you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can influence the person you become through what you repeatedly do. And the person you become influences how you respond to life. Two people can face the same difficulty and respond differently. One becomes bitter. Another becomes wiser. One gives up. Another grows stronger. One blames everyone. Another takes responsibility for what they can control. The circumstances may be similar, but the internal discipline creates a different response. And over time, different responses create different paths. Your life is listening to your actions. Your life does not listen only to what you say you want. It responds to what you repeatedly practice. If you repeatedly practice discipline, discipline becomes part of you. If you repeatedly practice distraction, distraction becomes part of you. If you repeatedly practice fear, fear can become a habit. If you repeatedly practice courage, courage can become a habit. If you repeatedly practice gratitude, you begin to notice more reasons to be grateful. If you repeatedly practice generosity, generosity becomes part of your character. The actions you repeat today are shaping the person who will face your tomorrow. So the question is not simply, what do I want? The deeper question is, what am I doing consistently to become the person who can receive, manage, and sustain what I desire? That is the question of the mirror of action. In conclusion, if you want a different reflection, you must change what you are putting in front of the mirror. If you want different results, examine your repeated actions. If you want a different future, begin by changing what you consistently do today. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for perfect circumstances. Do not wait for someone else to change. Start with the part of your life that is within your control. Change one habit, then another. Change your daily choices. Change what you repeatedly give your attention to. Change what you repeatedly feed your mind. Change what you repeatedly practice. Because eventually your habits will reveal themselves in your character. And your character will reveal itself in your life. The world may not always give you what you want, but your actions are constantly shaping what you become. And who you become will influence how you experience the world. So if you do not like the reflection, do not spend all your energy fighting the mirror. Change the person standing in front of it. Because when you change your actions consistently, you begin to change your life. Number 3 is the wisdom of the draft. The wisdom of the draft teaches us that great work usually begins as imperfect work. Think about writing. Most people imagine that a good writer sits down, thinks of the perfect words, and produces a perfect piece immediately. In reality, strong writing usually comes through a process. Idea, rough draft, feedback, revision, improvement. The first version does not have to be brilliant. Its job is simply to exist. No masterpiece was ever written in a single sitting without an edit. The lesson is simple. Give yourself permission to be a rough draft. You don't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start in order to improve. Often, the biggest obstacle isn't laziness. It's perfectionism. We think, what if I do it wrong? What if people don't like it? What if I'm not good enough? I need to know exactly what I'm doing before I begin. These thoughts can create analysis paralysis. We spend so much time trying to create the perfect plan that we never take the first step. The wisdom of the draft gives us another way to think. You are allowed to begin badly. Your first attempt is not your final result. Now, imagine someone wants to write a book. A perfectionist might think, I need the perfect opening sentence before I can continue. So they spend 3 hours rewriting the first sentence. A draft-minded person thinks, I'll write the first version now. I can improve it later. They write a messy first paragraph. Then they revise it. Then they improve it again. After several rounds, the paragraph becomes much better. The difference is not that one person is more talented. The difference is that one person allowed themselves to create something imperfect. The draft principle, a useful way to remember this idea is: create first, critique later. When you're creating, your job is to generate ideas. When you're editing, your job is to improve ideas. Trying to do both at exactly the same time can slow you down. For example, creating mode: let me get my thoughts onto the page. Editing mode: now let me make this clearer, stronger, and more effective. Both are important, but they serve different purposes. The deeper lesson, the idea of a rough draft, applies far beyond writing. Your career can be a rough draft. Your business idea can be a rough draft. Your fitness journey can be a rough draft. Your relationships can be a rough draft. Even your identity can be a rough draft. You don't have to have everything figured out. You can try something, learn from it, change direction, try again. That's not failure. That's revision. Try this the next time you're stuck. Step 1. Lower the standard. Tell yourself, this doesn't have to be good. It just has to be started. Step 2. Set a short timer. Give yourself 10 minutes. Step 3. Make a deliberately imperfect first attempt. Don't worry about grammar, quality, or whether it's impressive. Step 4. Stop and review. Now ask, what works? What doesn't? What can I improve? Step 5. Revise. Make version 2 better than version 1. The goal isn't to create a masterpiece immediately. The goal is to create something you can improve. Remember, the wisdom of the draft teaches us to replace the question, how do I make this perfect, with, how do I make this better than the last version? That shift is powerful. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You need to be willing to begin imperfectly, learn, revise, and keep going. Remember, the first draft is not a verdict on your ability. It is simply the starting point for your improvement. Start messy, learn quickly, revise often, keep moving. Number 4 is the choice of the two wolves. Imagine that two wolves live inside you. The wolf of fear and doubt says, I can't do this. What if I fail? People will judge me. It's safer not to try. The wolf of courage and faith says, I can take one step. I can learn from failure. I don't have to be perfect. I can trust myself and keep going. The teaching says, the wolf that wins is the one you feed. This doesn't mean that fear will disappear. Fear is a normal human emotion. It means that the thoughts and habits you repeatedly give your attention to become stronger. Think of your mind like a garden. If you constantly water weeds, the weeds grow. If you water flowers, the flowers grow. Your thoughts work in a similar way. If you constantly feed thoughts like, I'm not good enough, that belief can become stronger. If you practice thoughts like, I can improve, and back them up with action, confidence can grow. A simple example: imagine you have an important exam tomorrow. The fear wolf says, I'm going to fail. There's no point studying. If you keep feeding that thought, you may become anxious and give up. The courage wolf says, I'm nervous, but I can still study for 1 hour and do my best. If you feed that thought with action, you begin studying. You may not know the outcome, but you've chosen a response that helps you. The deeper lesson: the story is not telling us to pretend that fear doesn't exist. Instead, it teaches us to ask, which thoughts am I giving the most attention to? You don't have to eliminate the fear wolf. You can notice it without obeying it. When fear says, don't try, courage can answer, I'll try anyway. When doubt says, you're not ready, faith can answer, I'll learn as I go. The practical rule before you make an important choice: ask yourself, what is fear telling me? What is courage telling me? Which one am I feeding with my attention? What is one small action I can take today? Remember, your thoughts are powerful, but you are not every thought you think. You get to choose which thoughts you strengthen through your attention, actions, and habits. So the lesson of the two wolves is, feed the thoughts that help you grow, not the thoughts that keep you trapped. And remember, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward even when fear is present. Number 5 is the power of yet. Imagine you are trying to learn something difficult. Maybe you are learning math, a new language, a sport, or a musical instrument. You try and you fail. You might say, "I can't do this." That sentence feels final. Sounds like a wall. Now add one small word, "I can't do this yet." Suddenly, the meaning changes. The difference is one word, but the mindset is completely different. I can't do this. This is impossible for me. I can't do this yet. I haven't learned it so far. The first statement closes the door. The second leaves the door open. What does yet really teach us? The word yet reminds us that our abilities are not fixed. We can improve through practice, patience, feedback, and persistence. Think about a child learning to ride a bicycle. At first, the child might say, "I can't ride a bike," but a parent might respond, "You can't ride a bike yet." The child may fall several times, but falling doesn't mean the child will never learn. It simply means the learning process isn't finished. Eventually, "I can't" becomes "I can," and yet is the bridge between the two. Yet turns a dead end into a direction when we say, "I can't." We focus on the present moment as if it defines our entire future. When we say, "I can't yet," we acknowledge where we are without deciding where we will end up. That's why yet is powerful. It changes failure into feedback, mistakes into learning opportunities, difficulty into a challenge. "I can't" into "I'm still learning." Try changing your language instead of "I'm bad at math." Try "I'm not confident in math yet." Instead of "I don't understand this." Try "I don't understand this yet." Instead of "I'll never be good at this." Try "I'm not good at this yet." The goal isn't to pretend that something is easy. Yet doesn't deny difficulty. It simply refuses to treat today's difficulty as a permanent limitation. It's important to know that your current ability is not your final ability. Where you are today is just one point on your journey. So the next time you feel frustrated and want to say, "I can't do this," pause. Add one little word, "I can't do this yet." That tiny word creates space for growth, hope, effort, and possibility. Remember, yet transforms a dead-end wall into a bridge toward the future. You may not know how to do it yet. You may not understand it yet. You may not be good at it yet. But yet means the story isn't over. Number 6 is the compound effect. The compound effect is the idea that small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary results over time. Think of it like this: small choices, repeated habits, accumulated results, major transformation. The important part is that the individual actions often feel too small to matter. But when you repeat them every day, their effects accumulate. Imagine two people. Person A reads 10 pages every day. Person B reads nothing. Reading 10 pages doesn't feel impressive on any single day. But after a year, Person A has read roughly 3,650 pages, the equivalent of several books. The result didn't come from one massive reading session. It came from 10 pages repeated consistently. Success is rarely one giant leap. It is usually the result of hundreds or thousands of small decisions. Exercising for 20 minutes, saving a small amount of money, learning one new concept, making one important phone call, writing one page, choosing healthy food one meal at a time, showing up even when you don't feel motivated. Each action seems insignificant, but time multiplies consistency. Intensity feels powerful because it produces quick results. For example, someone might decide, "I'm going to exercise 2 hours every day." They go hard for 5 days, get exhausted, and quit. Another person says, "I'll exercise for 20 minutes, 3 times a week." That sounds less impressive, but they continue for 6 months. The second person often wins. Why? Because the best habit is not the one you can do perfectly for a week. It's the one you can sustain for years. Intensity can create a moment. Consistency creates a lifestyle. The 3 stages of the compound effect. Number 1. The invisible stage. At first, you may see little or no progress. You exercise, but your body doesn't change immediately. You study, but you don't suddenly become an expert. You save money, but your bank balance still looks small. This is where most people quit. Number 2. The momentum stage. You keep going. Your habits become easier. Your skills improve. Your confidence grows. Now the small actions begin to reinforce each other. You don't have to rely as much on motivation because the habit itself creates momentum. Number 3. The breakthrough stage. Eventually, the accumulated effort becomes visible. Suddenly, people may say, "Wow, you changed so much." But what they don't see is the hundreds of ordinary days that came before the breakthrough. The breakthrough was simply the visible result of invisible consistency. You can think of the compound effect like this: small action plus consistency plus time equals to extraordinary results. Or, more practically, don't focus on changing your entire life today. Focus on making today's choice slightly better. Then repeat it tomorrow. The hidden danger. Small negative choices. The compound effect works in both directions. Small positive choices compound upward, but small negative choices can compound downward. One unhealthy meal isn't a disaster. One missed workout isn't failure. One day of procrastination isn't the end. But when small negative choices become repeated habits, they can create significant consequences. So ask yourself, what are my daily actions adding up to? Your future is being shaped by what you repeatedly do today. The compound effect teaches us to stop obsessing over dramatic results and start respecting boring consistency. You don't need to become perfect overnight. Change everything at once. Feel motivated every day. Make one massive breakthrough. Instead, ask, what is one small action I can repeat consistently? Then make that action so simple that you can do it even on your worst day. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your repeated habits. The person who improves by 1% at a time may not look different tomorrow. But after months and years, those small improvements can create a completely different life. Your small choices are not small when you repeat them long enough. Number 7 is the gift of failure. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the data required for success. Most people see failure as a dead end. I failed, so I'm not good enough. But a more useful way to see failure is, I failed, so now I know something I didn't know before. Failure gives you information. It shows you what doesn't work, what needs to change, and what you should try next. See failure as a tuition fee. Think of every failure as a tuition fee for the school of experience. When you pay tuition at school, you don't expect every lesson to be easy. You pay because you want to learn. The same is true in life. You might apply for a job and get rejected. Start a business that doesn't work. Take an exam and fail. Ask someone for an opportunity and hear no. Try something new and make mistakes. These experiences can feel painful, but they can also teach you valuable lessons that success alone cannot. Instead of asking, why did I fail? Ask, what did this failure teach me? And then, what will I do differently next time? That is how failure becomes useful. In reality, every no brings you closer to the right yes. Imagine you are trying to open a locked door. You try one key. No. You try another. No. You try another. Still no. Does each no mean you are farther from success? Not necessarily. Each failed attempt tells you, this is not the key. Eventually, you find the key that works. The same principle applies to life. A rejection may lead you to a better opportunity. A failed idea may lead to a better idea. A mistake may reveal a weakness you can improve. A wrong direction may help you discover the right direction. So the goal isn't to avoid every no. The goal is to learn from each no without allowing it to stop you. You can think of failure like this: failure, reflection, learning, adjustment, new attempt, progress. For example, you give a presentation and people don't understand your message. Failure. The presentation doesn't achieve its goal. Reflection. You ask, what went wrong? Learning. You realize there was too much information and not enough clarity. Adjustment. You simplify your message and improve your examples. New attempt. You give the presentation again. Progress. The audience understands the message much better. The first presentation wasn't simply a failure. It was feedback. Now here is the difference between a failure and a lesson. A failure becomes truly valuable when you extract the lesson from it. Consider two people who both fail an exam. Person A says, I'm terrible at this. I'll never succeed. They stop trying. Person B says, my study method didn't work. I need to change how I prepare. They adjust their strategy. The event is the same. The difference is the interpretation. Person A sees failure as a verdict. Person B sees failure as information. That's the heart of this teaching. Failure tells you what to improve. It does not tell you who you are. Here are the 3 questions to ask after failure. Whenever something doesn't go as planned, ask yourself, 1. What happened? Look at the facts without exaggerating or blaming yourself. 2. What did I learn? Identify the information the experience gave you. 3. What will I do differently? Turn the lesson into action. This prevents you from getting stuck in shame or disappointment. Remember this. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is often part of the process that produces success. The person who succeeds is not necessarily the person who never fails. Often it is the person who fails, learns, adjusts, tries again, keeps moving. So when you hear no, don't automatically think, it's over. Instead, think, what is this no teaching me? Because sometimes the no you receive today is simply helping you become ready for the yes that matters tomorrow. Always remember this final takeaway. Don't waste your failures. Study them, learn from them, adjust because of them. Every failure can become tuition, and every lesson can move you one step closer to success. Number 8 is the island of someday. Imagine there is an island called Someday I'll. It is a beautiful place in our imagination. On that island, we say, someday I'll write the book. Someday I'll start the business. Someday I'll tell them I love them. Someday I'll learn the instrument. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll become the person I want to be. The problem is that someday is not a real place. It is a destination that keeps moving farther away every time we approach it. Now let's look into this disease called someday. Someday feels safe because it allows us to dream without having to act. We tell ourselves we need more time, more money, more confidence, more knowledge, or better circumstances. But often, someday is simply fear wearing the clothes of patience. We are not really waiting for the perfect moment. We are waiting for a moment when there will be no risk. And that moment never comes. The deepest tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that many people never begin. They carry songs they never sing, stories they never write, ideas they never build, love they never express, gifts they never share. They reach the end of life with their music still inside them. The world never gets to hear what they were capable of giving. The past is gone. The future is imagined. The only moment you can actually touch is now. This does not mean you must accomplish your entire dream today. It means you must begin today. If you want to write 1 page. If you want to create something small. If you want to apologize, make the call. If you want to learn, practice for 10 minutes. If you want to love someone, tell them. The goal is not to finish the journey today. The goal is to stop postponing the first step. Ask yourself, what am I waiting to do someday that I could begin today? Then ask, what is the smallest action I can take before this day ends? Because the cure for someday is not a grand transformation. It is one decision made now. Someday is a disease because it makes us believe that life is waiting for us in the future. But life is not waiting there. Life is happening here. Do not wait for someday to become who you want to be. Start becoming that person today. Your music is inside you. Don't die with it still inside. Number 9 is the rule of the circle. The people around you are quietly creating your future. Look around you for a moment. Think about the people you spend the most time with. They may be your closest friends, family members, coworkers, classmates, business partners, or even the creators you follow online. Now ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Are these people pulling you toward the life you want, or are they quietly pulling you away from it? Whether we realize it or not, every person we allow into our inner circle leaves fingerprints on our thoughts, our habits, our beliefs, and ultimately our destiny. Human beings are social creatures. We are constantly observing, copying, adapting, and absorbing the attitudes of those around us. We may believe we are independent thinkers, but science, psychology, and everyday experience all point to the same truth. Your environment is one of the strongest forces shaping your future. This principle is known as the rule of the circle. It teaches that the people closest to you influence the direction of your life far more than you imagine. They affect how you think, what you believe is possible, how hard you work, how you handle setbacks, and even the goals you dare to pursue. This is why one of the most important decisions you will ever make is not where you live, what job you choose, or even what opportunities come your way. It is who you allow to walk beside you. We become like what we repeatedly see. Imagine placing a white shirt beside a red cloth soaked in dye. At first, nothing appears to happen, but over time, the color begins to transfer. Slowly, almost invisibly, the white fabric changes. People work in exactly the same way. No one suddenly becomes negative after one conversation. No one instantly develops confidence after meeting one successful person. Change happens gradually through repeated exposure. Spend enough time around people who complain, and complaining begins to feel normal. Spend enough time around people who blame everyone else for their problems, and personal responsibility begins to disappear from your own thinking. Spend enough time around disciplined people, and discipline slowly becomes your standard. The influence is rarely dramatic. It is almost always invisible. Like water shaping stone, your environment slowly carves your character. There is a well-known idea that says, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Whether the number is exactly 5 is less important than the principle behind it. If everyone around you accepts mediocrity, eventually mediocrity feels normal. If everyone around you avoids responsibility, responsibility begins to feel unusual. If everyone around you believes success is impossible, your own ambitions slowly begin to shrink. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with people who read, learn, build, create, exercise, solve problems, and constantly improve themselves, something remarkable happens. Their standards become your standards. Their discipline influences your discipline. Their mindset reshapes your mindset. Success begins to feel possible because you see it being lived every day. There is an old illustration involving crabs placed inside a bucket. When one crab begins climbing out, the others pull it back down. None of them escape. While the story is often simplified, it illustrates an important human behavior. Sometimes people discourage your growth because your success forces them to confront their own fears. Instead of asking, how can I improve too? They unconsciously try to bring you back to their level. Not everyone wants you to fail, but not everyone is prepared to watch you succeed. Learning to recognize this difference is part of wisdom. Your circle doesn't have to be physical. Many people believe they are limited by the people in their neighborhood or workplace. Not anymore. Today, your circle includes much more than those sitting beside you. It includes the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the YouTube channels you follow, the people you admire, the authors who shape your thinking, the mentors whose lessons you apply. A young person living in a small town can now learn daily from world-class entrepreneurs, psychologists, philosophers, scientists, and educators. Your physical environment matters, but your mental environment matters even more. If you feed your mind wisdom every day, wise thinking gradually becomes your default. There is another side to this principle. Most people ask, how do I find better friends? A better question is, am I becoming the kind of person better friends would want around? High-quality people usually seek other high-quality people. Disciplined people appreciate discipline. Honest people value honesty. Responsible people enjoy responsibility. If you want your circle to improve, begin by improving yourself. Become someone who adds value. Become someone who keeps promises. Become someone who encourages others instead of pulling them down. As you grow, your circle naturally begins to change. Now let's conclude this particular topic with this illustration. Imagine an eagle raised among chickens. Every day it watches chickens scratch the ground, copies their behavior. It never attempts to fly because it believes scratching the earth is all life offers. One day another eagle appears overhead, soaring effortlessly through the sky. For the first time, the young eagle realizes something astonishing. I was never meant to stay on the ground. The environment had hidden its true potential. Many people live exactly like that eagle, not because they lack ability, but because they have never been surrounded by people who showed them what was possible. Sometimes all it takes is one mentor, one book, one conversation, or one friendship to completely change the trajectory of your life. The number 10 is the final perspective. Imagine yourself at 90, looking back at this exact chapter of your life. That older version of you probably wouldn't care much about the moments when you looked foolish, made the wrong choice, or tried something that didn't work. Those moments would have faded into stories. What would stay with you are the things you never gave yourself permission to try. The business you didn't start. The idea you kept postponing. The person you didn't reach out to. The skill you never learned. The opportunity you talked yourself out of because you weren't ready. The version of yourself you could have become, but didn't pursue. Your 90-year-old self would probably say, "Please stop waiting for certainty. You will never have all the information. You will never feel completely prepared. There will always be a reason to wait another month, another year, until you're more confident, more successful, more financially secure, or more certain that you won't fail." But your future self doesn't need you to guarantee success. They need you to begin, because embarrassment is temporary. Failure is temporary. Rejection is temporary. Even a wrong decision can teach you something. But regret has a different weight. Regret is the question that follows you. What if I had tried? So if I were to translate this teaching into a message specifically for you, it would be, stop optimizing your life from the sidelines. You don't need another perfect plan before you move. You need the courage to take the next meaningful step. Make the call. Start the project. Publish the thing. Ask the question. Take the opportunity. Leave what is no longer right for you. Become the person you keep imagining you could be. Your future self is not asking you to win every time. They're asking you not to abandon yourself because you're afraid of losing. The deepest lesson is not simply, don't have regrets. It is, live in a way that your 90-year-old self can thank you for. When you're unsure what to do, ask, which choice would my 90-year-old self be more grateful that I made? Then, whenever the answer is clear, act before fear has time to negotiate with you. Because one day you will look back at this exact moment. And the goal isn't to be able to say, I got everything right. The goal is to be able to say, I was brave enough to live my own life. These 10 pillars are not rules imposed by the world. They are principles discovered through countless human lives across generations. Plant the seed before expecting the harvest. Become the person your goals require. Allow yourself to begin imperfectly. Feed courage instead of fear. Believe in the power of yet. Trust consistency more than motivation. Welcome failure as a teacher. Refuse to live on the island of someday. Choose people who elevate your thinking. And always remember the person you are becoming is watching every decision you make today. Your future is not built in one extraordinary moment. It is built in thousands of ordinary moments repeated with intention. The architect of your soul has always been you. The only question is, what will you build starting today? Goodbye and enjoy the rest of your day.